Paris, Budapest or Rome, there's a place that we call home. Where's that place I hear you cry? It's R-A-T-T-R-A-Y, R-A-T-T-R-A-Y, R-A-T-T-R-A-Y. I love you till the day I die. It's R-A-T-T-R-A-Y.
People have been living in this area since the time of the Picts, until the fall of the Pictish kingdom in 834 AD.
St Ninian camped in the Well Meadow with a troupe of singers and musicians in 300 AD.
From 1096 to 1270 and the times of the Crusades, members of the Clan Rattray family took part in the wars in the Holy Land. That's why there are 2 crosses on the Rattray crest.
Craighall Castle. The first tower castle was built in 1490 and more parts added over the centuries. In 1533, Patrick Rattray was murdered in the castle. In 1623, Sylvester Rattray created the first Scottish sporting trophies, a silver ball, an arrow and a curling stone.
Rattray's name is made up of 2 parts, Rath, which means fortification, and Treb or Tray, meaning settlement in the ancient Welsh language that was spoken here.
The first bridge was built in 1777 to replace the rowing boat service across the River Erict between Blairgowrie and Rattray, and widened in 1872.
There were 13 jute and flax mills on the River Erict from the middle of the 19th century until 1950.
The school was opened in November 1873 when the original roll was 87 children.
Berries have been grown here because of the good growing conditions since 1890. They were taken by trains to London from the Blairgowrie railway station. We are the soft fruit capital of Britain.
New houses and a new community hall are being built as Rattray continues to grow and change. So a snapshot in Rattray's history and its future. New people, new stories, and new histories.
In February 2014, local people were invited to Rattray Primary School to share their memories of work, life and school. Members of the community were asked the question, who do we think we are?
Who do we think we are?
Many of the stories and anecdotes focused on Rattray School.
I would reckon I would be 4 when I started in Rattray School. I reckon, and my first teacher was Miss McClavey.
I started teaching in Rattray School, Primary 4, in August 1959.
My dad's been here in 1980s. My mum and dad came to Rattray School.
My dad's been to Rattray, so is my 2 uncles.
My sister came to this school in 1999.
Well, my granny's told me loads of stories about him, and he was a real troublemaker.
At that time, we had no central heating. We had a coke stove in each room with a big old-fashioned nursery fire guard round. Awful grand for throwing comics in when the children were reading them under their desk.
I remember when the boys got joiner work, etc., we got knitting or sewing, but that was all.
Oh, I think the the biggest memory of a Rattray School is, apart from getting the belt, would be one of the teachers. I can't remember her correct name, but we called her Miss Spitfire because she had an unfortunate habit of spluttering every time she spoke to you.
I'm a captain of Glass Clune and we get to do duties like going to playgroup and helping out with the tuck shop, and you just try and encourage the people in your house to get more house points.
Sometimes they have football tournaments with other school and tennis tournaments and loads of other things.
As a child, growing up in Rattray, I remember things like the old marketplace, down at the back of Davy Park.
There was an orchard at the back, and most of my time was playing in the orchard, climbing trees, etc., getting into trouble.
Went baking through the Braes and down to Asgrove, down to Oldmore Road and places like that. And because there was a brae at the back of Asgrove Terrace, and I went right away down, made past into it, and wandered way down there and made dens and things like that. It was great.
where we stayed in the circle at Davy Park, that was a great wee community, so everybody just joined in. So, no, there was loads of fun games.
My favourite thing about Rattray School is that we're allowed to go in the common at lunchtime.
We like to go on the common and chat, or we stay in the playground and skip the skipping rope.
Gypsy dancers do the splits, 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 do the high kicks, kicks, kicks.
Some of the games we play are block out, football and manhunt.
Cricket, football, although the girls joined in with the boys, you know, and cricket and football, rounders, that was a favourite.
Kick the can was one of the games that they loved playing, hide and seek.
The farmer's in his den and things like that, you know, just childish games.
Cowboys and Indians, what have you, all these silly little games that boys play. It was quite a lot of the time it was in the Rattray Common.
The other one we used to play at school, I think, was it called Kiss, Cuddle and Torture? I remember that for school in the common. Probably skipping and Kiss, Cuddle and Torture were the two main things.
But there was I, over all the rest, a gleesome game that pleased me best. The rattling game, the roaring play, called Roly-Poly down the brae.
When I left the school, I went to work in a small shop, Ken Mackenzie's on the High Street. And there was a lot of shops in Rattray High Street. There was Rattray Post Office, there was the bakers, Farkas and the bakers, there was Fernie the butcher, what else was there? Oh, there was the Doddy Stewart, the repair shop, shoe repair shop, and now there's nothing.
My father originally was a butcher. Henderson's had a butcher shop in the Well Meadow, and my father did the country runs up the glens and things like that. Yeah, my mother, a bit like I've always worked for home, she did the same a bit. She took in washings and that. My father would bring them down from the glen. She would do the wash and iron, and then it would go away back up the glen. But I suppose she wouldn't have had a lot of time with 9 kids.
A memory I have is when Braemar games were on, we used to go down to my grandmother's and sleep at night the night before. So that first thing early in the morning we used to go out to the Balmoral Road and watch, at that time, charabancs going up to Braemar.
But I think it depended a lot on the vans coming round the doors. There was the Coke van, and I remember Will Lawson, the coalman. I think he lived up about Hatton Place. I think it was Dicky, and it was a horse and cart, and the coal came round in that. And the fishwife came once a week from Arbroath.
My mum used to work in the mills as a really, really young girl years and years ago, before obviously she had me.
Most of them round about out where we lived tended to work in Smedley's Cannery, which was just across the road. But like say Minnie Stewart, she worked in the mills. Somebody was just asking why was Minnie not in a Berry photograph. I said because she was real working.
We had to go to the Berries to pick money for our school uniform back in the days. And then as I grew up, I used to take my younger brothers to the Berries as well, down at Thompson's and Wallace's, I think it was called, both down in the sort of the back of Davy Park.
Where we stayed in Grant's Land, and then when you looked out the window at the back, it was all berry fields. You know, most places in Blair at that time, it didn't matter where you go, it was berries.
We had to go to the Berries. My dad was gaffer at the Berries. He worked with Charlie Smith, the grain merchants in Blair. That was in the Well Meadow there. And we had to get up and go to the Berries every morning and work and save our pennies, and then we went to maybe Dundee and spent on clothes for going to school.
And this is what he says. Oh, come along, you berry pickers, the berries are good today. Ta-da-da-dum, ta-da-da-da-dum.
Davy Park, where the pond is now, that was just a marsh. So we tended to play along the braes because there wasn't an amount of trees on the braes back in these days.
You could play football, you had the swings, the shoot and everything like that down there. And we used to, the breeze was all the, the walk path from the top of the breeze right down. You go down the different paths,
At the swings, and the boating pond was there at the time, and the putting green was there when we first came, and that was a great activity for kids to do.
There used to be a paddling pool there, putting, etc. in the park, and we used to spend all our times down there and playing in the berry fields as kids, basically.
And of course at that time you had to travel 5 miles on a Sunday before you could get a drink. You couldn't drink in Blair. Say you resident in Blair, you couldn't drink in Blair. You had to go to Cuprangus for a drink. So the buses were very busy on a Sunday.
I was 14 when the war started, so we had all the troops in Blairgowrie. So you got into dances free, and we're just there every night, And my mother was always giving us a telling off for going out so often. She says, "You're never at home, you're never at home." But we loved it.
But when the school was reopened, there 2000, and I've forgotten the date exactly, Fred Macaulay, who opened it, a former pupil of Rattray School, his father was a policeman here, and he went to Perth, came back again as police inspector. So Fred, a former pupil of mine, known as Derek in those days, and it's lovely to look back on all the children and see the different roads they've taken and the careers they've made for themselves.
Paris, Budapest or Rome, there's a place that we call home. Where's that place? I hear you cry. It's R-A-T-T-R-A-Y, R-A-T-T-R-A-Y, R-A-T-T-R-A-Y. I love you till the day I die. It's R-A-T-T-R-A-Y. Over all the world I stray, I never want to stay away. I'll always come back home to drive. It's R-A-T-T-R-A-Y, R-A-T-T-R-A-Y.